Hello everyone and welcome back to a high-level match of StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a best of 3 series of Zerg versus Protoss played with the new StarCraft 2 balance changes. Now I've got a feeling that our Zerg player here in the top right-hand corner of the map, Waterfall, I've got a feeling that he is really going to enjoy the changes made to the Swarm because we're looking at soO's main hatchery. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing with the red Protoss probes, likewise also from South Korea, we're looking at NightMare's main Nexus. Now real quick, I haven't casted a lot of soO's games over the course of the last, well, really like the last year or so. In case you're unfamiliar, soO, he's, well, first off, very notorious for taking second place at an unusual amount of premier tournaments, which kind of sucked for him, but at the end, or in the end, he ended up winning IEM Katowice back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken, and that was like $150,000 for the first place prize. And honestly, he still made a pretty penny taking second place at practically every single tournament that he participated in. Anyways, the reason why I bring soO up, though, is because while he hasn't found as much success lately, I've got a feeling that the new balance changes are really going to benefit his playstyle quite a bit. So he's always been a very aggressive Zerg, meaning that he likes to make a bunch of drones, and then he likes to throw stuff at the opponent. He's not really the kind of passive Zerg who likes to sit back and make a bunch of Infestors and Vipers. He only really mixes in those late-game Zerg spellcasters if he absolutely has to. I don't think I've really seen a game where he goes for like both Infestors and Vipers. I mean, maybe he has, but at the very least, none come to mind. He's very much so that swarmy Zerg. Now, obviously, the changes to the Zerg that I think are really going to benefit him are, first off, the Hydralisk movement speed increase. I think he's really going to like that. And on top of that, the Brood Lord is now also a lot more microable because it's also just simply a little bit faster. The Ultralisk, while not particularly helpful in Zerg versus Protoss, at least I don't think there's going to be an Ultra built in this series, although I would love to see it, Ultras in general just get torn apart by Immortals, so maybe there's a chance for that at some point, but anyways, they're a little bit smaller too. I've got a feeling soO is, really going to enjoy playing with the new Ultralisk as well, and I wouldn't be surprised if he is going to feel pretty good about the changes, at least so far. For Protoss, obviously a long list of changes has been announced as well. We don't know if all of them are actually going to make it to the final version of the game too, but real quick, a recap. Shield battery overcharge is not as strong as it used to be. The Observer is faster, but also bigger. So it's 17.5% bigger, which I've compared sizes, and I guess it's noticeable when you see them side by side, but I honestly feel like you probably wouldn't be able to tell. Unless, you know, you pay very close attention to it. But we'll probably see some observers coming out before too long. The High Templar is a bunch faster. The Archon can now actually fit through single gap walls. So say, for example, the Archon gets stuck in the natural expansion because you had to recall it against Mutas or whatever. You can actually, get it out of your natural, which is kind of nice. That's a quality of life change we should have had a decade ago. But anyhow, it's here. Protoss players rejoice. The Disruptor is reduced in its Purification Nova strength. So the radius has been reduced by 10% from 1.5 to 1.35. And obviously, a radius reduction immediately impacts the surface area as well. So yeah, you can't rely on the Disruptor all too much. And I've seen NightMare actually play a ton of Disruptors in the past. So maybe he'll bring them out in this particular series as well. I mean, it's a 10% reduction. We should be able to notice the difference, but sometimes it's hard to tell. The Carrier also has gone through a whole lot of changes. First off, the Interceptor. So the Interceptor shields are reduced from 40 to 30. So it used to have 40 health and then 40 shields. And right now it's going to have 30 shields and 40 health, which is a pretty significant reduction, really. It's going to make them a little bit less tanky. The attack target priority of the Interceptor has also been reduced from 20 to 19. And that essentially means that if you're a Zerg player who is not one of the top 20, you can attack move a lot more effectively against those maxed out carrier armies because your Corruptors and Hydras are actually going to prioritize killing the carrier rather than the Interceptors, which is a change that I am very happy for as someone who, you know, is decent at the game but who loses against Skytolls all of the time. The Interceptor flying radius around the target is also increased. I've compared the two, but I've honestly not noticed much of a difference. And then the last two changes, we've got the Sentry build time. It's reduced from 26.4 to 22.9. So maybe that'll open the front door for some more Sentry-based builds. And of course, the big one that I really think is significant, but nobody is talking about it, It's the forge changes. The forge upgrades now all take a whole lot less long. Okay, decent surround over here, but a lot of drones are still getting picked off. Okay, interesting. So 8 workers, honestly, not bad at all. Apparently those units do pack a punch here over time, but still came at the cost of 4 of those adepts. And at this point, soO is going to be able to happily drone on the back of this, knowing very well that there's not really going to be that much more aggression coming out of the Protoss player here anytime soon. soO, though, is going to send the Zerglings across. Not a whole lot that he can get done, though, because, I mean, look at that cool skin as well. They're like wearing crowns. Look at that zealot over here. What a badass. Anyways, yeah, he's gonna be able to, well, assuming they don't get surrounded and just destroyed very easily, he should be able to keep this Nexus alive without all too much trouble. So, real quick, as far as, do we have a little bit of time to talk about this? Because I feel like I've already missed some action. I think we do. The forge upgrades. So, the first level, all of those upgrades now take 7 seconds less long. The level 2 upgrades, they have their research time reduced by 9 seconds, and the level 3 upgrade research time is reduced by 11 seconds. So that is 27 seconds less time to research plus 3. And that obviously goes for, well, all 3 of the upgrades. So that's the attacks, that's the armor, and then also the shields. Honestly, very significant, yet nobody really talks about that. And that doesn't even take into account chrono boost. If you want to go for a timing attack, I mean, I've got a feeling there's a lot of potential there for the Protoss players to mess around with, especially with the sentry change as well. Might be able to get some cool timing attacks done with, yeah, a bunch of sentry energy and some quicker upgrades. Wouldn't be surprised at all if that's going to be a mid-game we're going to settle on. Anyways, do we already have an observer? Not yet. We've got a prism. Oh, he's going into the Robo Bay here. Fair enough. This was scouted as well here by soO. So, at least historically speaking, as soon as you see this, you would immediately transition towards Vipers. But again, soO is not really the kind of guy who really likes to play Vipers that much. So he does have an Infestation Pit. Vipers are really good against Robo Bay units, be it Colossi or be it Disruptors, but I'm not sure. soO not really the kind of guy who really goes for that all too often. Prism drop in the main base. Roaches are being produced. Protoss army also marching around the center of the map. Looks like the Queen ended up going down, but not all too many workers. 4th Nexus, however, is secured, and there's a whole lot of stasis wards set up. I've got a feeling that NightMare is not going to have too hard of a time here keeping that structure up and running. So it is going to be Disruptors. So Purification Nova radius increased by, or sorry, reduced by 10%. We'll have to see if we can tell. I'm assuming we can, because 10% radius really is significant. Hello? What's up with these prisms? Ay, that was a mess. First, it just flew over the Spore Crawler and the Queen there, and now it did the same thing over here. That is not where we want it to be. Okay, you know what? soO is actually not gonna go for Vipers, I don't think. I think he wants to go straight into a Greater Spire. So he started up a Spire as he did the Hive. And that will allow you to go straight into the Greater Spire as well. Maybe he'll still mix in a couple of Vipers, but again, it's soO. So I feel like every other high-level Zerg would mix in a couple of Vipers. But, you know, soO usually doesn't really go for that spellcastery army. He just, I don't know, man. He likes to make a lot of stuff and just swarm the opponent. And Brute Lords are an excellent choice. So, let me just... I think this is Brute Lords anyways. So the Brute Lord movement speed has been increased from 1.97 to 2.3. Doesn't sound like a big number difference. So from basically 2 to 2.3, it doesn't sound that significant. But in the games where I've seen Brute Lords, and I'm hoping he starts up the Great Aspire here, it really does add up. Well, actually hold that thought. There's the... Purification Nova definitely seems smaller. Yeah, it definitely seems smaller, doesn't it? Okay, it's still going to be great for defending wall-offs and ramps and all that, but... Okay, there's the Great Aspire. Okay, nice. Yeah, this might be a misread here from NightMare, though. It's just going into now Immortal production and all that. Ideally, you do want to hit before Brute Lords are out as a Protoss player. Because if you don't... yeah, Brute Lords scary. Brute Lords really scary. If you... Hello. Okay. If you don't have units ready to go against those brutes, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So obviously going for a timing attack. What was that? One of the Purification Novas just looking to detonate with the Protoss instead. Anyhow, Zerg Swarm here. Yeah, approaching the front door. Battery overcharge here is not gonna Not gonna get the Knight? Well, at least it will stay alive for a long while. Anyhow, Protoss units running on over at the same time, though. There's the Banelings here on the right side of the map, too. Archons here doing a phenomenal job, but two of the Protoss, two of the Banelings there do still sneak into that Protoss mineral line. That was a cool little attack, actually, because that was mostly soO as well, opening up a bunch of supply. I think he'll probably add on some Corruptors here momentarily. A lot of creep spread here already, though, by the Zerg player, which is going to make it difficult for NightMare to push forward. I don't think this is really the way to play this, NightMare. Am I mistaken? Like, you've got the double robo facility here. You're going for Immortals, you're going for Archons, you're going for Disruptors. That would all be fantastic in the current meta of StarCraft 2, where a lot of Zerg players like to go for, well, for example, a bunch of Lurkers, but you haven't done any scouting here in a while. Haven't seen the Hive at all. There's an Observer, by the way. Look at the thick Observer. That is thick with like 3 Cs and all upper... No, it's actually not that big. No, it's really not that big. Anyways, Corruptors. They are out. The problem with these armies is that as soon as there's like a dozen Brute Lords available, it gets absolutely shut down. I think 6 to like 10 Brute Lords are fantastic. Usually I aim for like 8. I think 8 is usually, yeah, a pretty good number, but quite expensive. It's gonna be 5 of them. So let's see if we'll be able to notice the movement speed increase on these Broods. soO is just dancing around, by the way. Getting another cancel. Not bad at all. Okay, could you guys fly for us? Could you just make like a little, you know, just a little, you know, just a little, no? Okay. I think he's busy microing on the other side of the map. All of these trades, though, are pretty damn good here for soO, who's just swarming over the opponent here. Exactly what I was trying to explain in the earlier stages of this game. Just continuously, Oh, they're moving, look! Look how fast he is! Okay, it doesn't seem significant, but in my testing at least, I found that you can now kite with Brute Lords a whole lot more effectively. So they behave a lot more like StarCraft 1 Guardians now, especially with the Bruteling also dying a little bit quicker. Anyways, looks like NightMare is finally thinking about moving across the map, but he has well missed his timing window. You want to be attacking... Oh my god, he just connected with his own Archons there. You want to be attacking before the Brute Lords are out. Because this is not an army that can deal with Brute Lords at all. There's 7 of them right now. There they are. Look at them. They are noticeably faster, right? Look at them. Actually noticeably faster. Oh, nice cancel. They actually seem so quick now. Sorry, I'm just staring at the Brutes. So he starts up additional Stargates right now. They, yeah, that's a Desperation Stargate transition, I suppose, but... Yeah, 1 Void Ray is coming up, that's nice and all. But when you have to react against a unit that takes 10 minutes to build, you will find yourself in a tricky spot. Yeah, normally you don't want to hang out here with the Brute Lords. Normally the Brutes should not be used as a flanking tool, but even if a couple of Stalkers show up, you can still back off pretty easily. Front door is wide open here, NightMare. Ugh, making some sloppy mistakes in this game so far, honestly. His early game was excellent, but now suddenly the Zerglings are ravaging his natural mineral line, and maybe he was a little bit confused. Like, I think he wanted to go for an attack before the Brute Lords were out. He didn't know about the Brute Lords, though. Maybe he was just assuming that this was going to be Lurker play, which is something that soO has been fond of lately, but you can't really make that assumption. Anyways, he still has 4 Nexi. He still has a good amount of economy, all things considered. Okay, we've got a... We've got a Stargate transition. I wonder if this should not be a Stargate transition, but maybe... Or sorry, a Void Ray transition, but maybe like a Tempest one? Then again, when there's Brute Lords, there are Corruptors. So Tempest obviously not so good against the Corruptors as the Void Rays are. Anyways, some big detonations over here, but those Brutes are having a grand old time. Yeah, no, this is looking rough. So the Brutelings do die much quicker, but they still stick around for quite a while. If Protoss is not going to be able to secure another base, Life's gonna get really tricky, since now the main base as well as the natural, they're gonna be running very, very low. So the income here is... Oh, actually, I can't open up the income graph. Interesting. That also explains why we haven't seen the death counters and the upgrade timers on the right and left side of the screen. Anyways, you can see right here that the income is just not as good. And that is really going to hurt NightMare here in the long run. Brute Lords, they're gonna take a while to get over here. They could at the very least move on over here if they wanted to, but they're gonna be flying on over towards the right side of the map instead. Is there enough army though available to deal with these Void Rays? Yeah, Corruptors are gonna be the name of the game apparently, but you're gonna need a lot of Corruptors in order to actually pull off, well, killing 6 Void Rays, with, I'm assuming, more to come. Look at the Brutes, absolutely demolishing everything. Huh. Okay. Yeah, normally you don't really want to be going into Hydralisk here, but I wonder if with the new balance changes, it's actually a viable option. NightMare's still sticking around, but honestly, he's got very little going for himself, right? I mean, he's got a bunch of economy. He can go for, I guess, one last assault. Does he even have Storm? No, there's no Storm either. I think the change to Disruptors was, I mean, nice for securing the 4th Nexus, but that's basically where that ended. Okay, Ultra Cavern also coming up here for soO. I didn't think we were going to see Ultras, but a lot of Stalkers here in the middle of the map. Oh my god, you hate to see that. Why are they here? What are they even doing here? GG. Alright, next up, Data C. Very messy game number 1 from NightMare, to be honest. I mean, his early game was excellent. I think those 4 Adepts ended up killing 8 drones, if I'm not mistaken. The Oracle control was also pretty good, so maybe the Oracle's also got a couple kills here and there. But then losing that Prism very uncharacteristically and just doubling down on a ground-based army. I mean, sometimes, and I've had this happen many times as well in my own games, right? Sometimes you end up countering the meta rather than the actual player. Meaning that, like, if this would have been a Lurker transition, NightMare would have been in an excellent spot. However, that was no indicator that this was going to be a Lurker transition. It's just that it's become very popular in the meta of StarCraft 2 to go for Lurkers, but we're playing on a new patch. You're going to have to do some, some scouting. And when you're stuck against, like, a dozen Brute Lords with Archon Immortal Disruptor, I mean, you're not doing yourself any favors. That was a lot of Archons as well, right? He had, like, 10 Archons. I'm not exactly sure. Anyhow. Let's see. What exactly is the plan for this one? Yeah, so by the way, there are observer tools that you can add to a StarCraft 2 game when the lobby is being hosted. There's Game Heart, and then there's Observer Plus, and a bunch of different ones. But it will basically allow us to see what's building in these structures without me having to click on it, right? And the same for those timers and those things that show up on the sides of the screen from time to time. Apparently these games, they were hosted without those observer advantages added as well to the game. Not entirely sure why, but... That does mean that we're lacking a little bit of information, but hopefully the production tab is still gonna provide us with quite a bit. It's the same for the graphs. Like, I cannot open up any of the graphs. So I can show the units lost over here, but not, you know, the income advantage or the army growth and all that. Anyhow. Well, other than the income over here. But these numbers, okay, I don't like these numbers as much as I like seeing, you know, the actual plotted line. It's once again the same build here from NightMare, who is following it up with a pretty quick Twilight Council, okay. I wouldn't mind seeing him go for a timing attack. So let's talk about potential Protoss builds. I feel like there's a lot of timing attack possibility that's kind of fallen off the radar over the course of the last couple of years. So a lot of Protoss players back in the early days of StarCraft 2 used to go for 2 base all-ins, and then when 2 base all-ins were held really nicely, there were a lot of 3 base all-ins. Now this is nice, by the way. Okay. Woo, 5 drones, not bad at all. Oh, nice. Really nicely done there. Okay. Anyways, we used to see a lot of timing attacks. And I guess we still see timing attacks, but usually only with, like, for example, the Glaives upgrade. Which, you know, they're fantastic. They're really strong. But we used to see a lot of timing attacks based around Forge upgrades. And these days, not really that popular anymore. I wouldn't mind seeing some of those making a return, because the upgrades, they're honestly significant. So, what was it? 7, 9, 11 seconds? 7 for +1, 9 for +2, 11 for +3. I mean, that's huge. Combine that with the sentry change. I mean, you could warp in a sentry pretty early on. Maybe you can't take a third base as confidently, so I'm not entirely sure about the sentry situation. But I definitely do think there's a potential to go for, yeah, a couple of upgrades and have those finish up all around the same time. Anyhow, in this game, we gotta be talking about those glaives. So this is a 45% attack speed for, or 45% attack speed improvement for the adepts. We've got how many gateways? 4 gateways with 2 more finishing up. Yeah, so this is a pretty heavy commitment right here from NightMare. He's gonna have to get some sort of damage done. soO is still droning. He needs to be very, very careful. Roachhorn only just now coming up. Bit of a misread here from soO, who hasn't done any scouting at all. Has he seen this? I don't think he's seen this. He's still making drones. Oh no, he's super dead. Yeah, no. I mean, you can try and respond. Ah? Yeah, okay, he does commit. I was gonna say. If you wait for too long, then roaches are gonna be joining. But they're really fast. Fair enough. This is a good position to be in. Zerglings are gonna start dropping very quickly. But so far, I mean, it's been a couple of drones, but nothing all too crazy. For the time being, Zerg is gonna make non-stop army. There's no prism available or anything like that, so... Okay, this is fantastic, though. He's gonna have to warp in those reinforcements at the 3rd nexus. Shades once again going all over the map, and this is where the drones really start dropping. Yeah, you don't really want to let those adepts get multiple shades off. Generally, at least in my experience, when you see the shades going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, it's a pretty damn good game for the Protoss. Misread right here from soO. He was droning. He was starting to make army, but he was a little too late. +1 melee finishes up right now as well, but... that is not really at the time where you want it. So Zerg making non-stop army here is nice, I suppose, but... one of the problems sometimes you run into as a Protoss player here, I've had that in a lot of my Protoss games whenever I go for the Glaives opener, is that you kill all of the drones, and that's nice, but then you still have to deal with the Zerg army that's gonna counterattack, right? And then oftentimes you can't really defend against that, but in this game, that is not a problem. NightMare ends up getting a point on the board. And that brings us to inside and out. So just to clarify, by the way, the Glaive Adept opener is usually done off of 4 gateways. And NightMare going for 6 obviously allows him with a whole lot more units. Makes it a little tricky for soO to defend when he doesn't know exactly what's going on. Interesting though that he didn't scout at all, right? He had an Overlord on that pillar. A lot of Zergs have been fond of going for double Overlord scouts again, but soO not going for a single one. I didn't pay attention to that in the first game of this series, but I wonder if he's gonna scout with an Overlord in this game. Yeah, when you're in the natural though, on Data C, when you are on the pillar in the natural and then you have to fly all the way through the main base, I mean, it's a long distance to cover. There's a good chance that there's gonna be, I don't know, something shooting down your OV. Usually still worth the risk, however. Anyhow. Inside and out. Pretty standard map. Probably the most commonly played map right now. Well, I would say in pretty much every best of 3 series, we see inside and out. This seems to be one of the most balanced maps. Nothing all too spicy, nothing all too crazy. You can take 4 bases relatively easily. Not a base, or not a map with a ton of bases in total, so only 6 bases for each, but that is plenty for the average StarCraft 2 game. Okay. Probe apparently was sent out early enough to block the natural expansion from coming up. soO decided to go for the 3rd. Loses a couple of Zerglings here, but that is a sacrifice he is willing to make, just so he can get some additional drones out. It's once again that Stargate opener here from NightMare, so apparently this is his bread and butter. Is he gonna follow it up with a quick Twilight again? I don't think so. Nope. He might still go for one here momentarily, but we're looking for some harassment here with these oracles instead. I mean, to be fair, game number 1, it just was a little bit sloppy in the second half, right? It started off really strong. But, yeah, then it wasn't. So what is with this fascination to never make Spore Crawler, soO? I never quite understand it, because now he's still forced to make a Spore Crawler anyways. Why not just make it a little bit sooner? Just so you know, don't take... Anyways, it's fine, I guess. Yeah, he does decide to go for Spore Crawlers, but much later than you probably should. Usually 3.5 minutes is what you're looking for as a Zerg player against Protoss. In case you want your tip of the day. 4.5 minutes against Terran. Because Banshees and Liberators show up at about 5 minutes. 3.5 minutes against Protoss, because Oracles show up at around 4 minutes. Anyway. Okay. Good control here, though. Ooh, don't lose one. No, don't do. Okay. Don't lose any of the oracles. If you don't lose any of the oracles, I'm gonna clap. Oh! Well worth it now. I mean, he still took a lot of damage, but 5 workers here in the earlier stages of this game, while simultaneously forcing out a bunch of Zerglings. Really, really nice. Wouldn't have clapped, though, if that oracle died, because then it's suddenly no longer worth it. Okay, so soO once more, by the way, not opting to go for the Overlord Scout. That really does surprise me a little bit. Because this could be literally the same build that he just played against, and we've got literally the same thing happening here again for soO as well. So he's saying, yo, if you do the same Glaives build, I'm gonna die again. There's nothing here that really... I mean, maybe he's seen something, but I think the timing of the 3rd Nexus and the double Oracle and all that is identical. He's seen 4 Adepts as well when he scouted the 3rd Nexus. Still making drones, though. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. I'm not gonna clap again, but don't... Oh, my God. NightMare feeling a little YOLO, apparently, in this series. I still can't get over that Prism, though. We saw that Prism miscontrol in the first game. Twice. That doesn't make any sense. Like, flying and idling above a Spore Crawler? You shouldn't see that above, like, Diamond League, okay? That's... it's just not the place to be. Anyhow, Zerglings do scout a little Adept move out. Man, you're a greedy boy, soO, aren't you? So there's a 4th hatchery finishing up. And now we finally start making army. I mean, it's a little bit risky, that's for sure, but... if he's got enough stuff here to defend, I guess he'll be pretty happy. Overseer Scout goes into the main base. Would have been too late. Robo Bay once again, by the way, here for NightMare. Which is kind of funny, because I feel like that's where things went wrong in the previous one. Okay, so a little timing attack to kill the 4th hatch. Not bad at all. Hasn't killed the... okay, now he has. I was gonna say, he didn't actually kill the base yet. Losing a 4th hatchery here, though, is not that big of a deal for soO. I mean, it sucks, I suppose, but it's not a huge problem. He can double expand on the back of this and not really be in a whole lot of problems. He could even overdrone if he really wants to. But... oh, okay, we're making the drone out of the 1 larva here. If that's the drone that's gonna make this new base, that would be kind of cute, but... yep, I think that's exactly what he's doing. There was still 1 larva. It's so unnecessary, but you know what? It's pretty cute. So far in this series, it seems to me that NightMare does not realize he's playing on the new patch. Which is interesting. I mean, he must realize, but he's not made any adjustments in his strategy at all. So he's got the Robo Bay. He's got the Disruptors coming up again. Please don't make too many. I think you want to go for a bunch of Disruptors, but I don't think you want to make them half of your army. I might be mistaken, but there's once again the Infestation Pit coming up. 8 minutes on the Infestation Pit. The Ferrari Brute Lords are not going to be too far behind, okay? 8-cylinder Brute Lords are going to be joining the battlefield very soon. 1,000 horsepower now, man. They used to be at like 500. I mean, they're massive, right? Don't get me wrong. But now suddenly, oof, additional engine capacity on the Brute Lords. I'm hoping we're going to see them again. There's the Hive. Spire, 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 Spire. Spire! Yes! Thank you, soO. Banelings, ready to roll in. There are a couple of stasis wards set up. I mean, they're gonna roll in when Centrifugal Hooks finishes, but it's not done yet. Well then. Oh, you know the reason why we don't have Observer Plus or any of that stuff added? I'm pretty sure they're not actually playing this on the PTR, because when you try to host a tournament on the PTR, I know this from experience, the players will not actually download the PTR, or they will accidentally forget to do so, not realizing that the PTR is like an entirely separate instance of SC2. It's like a big download as well. So I think the way they're hosting this tournament is by adding a custom mod to a regular game of StarCraft 2. And since you can only add one custom mod, I think it was either this, you know, with the balance changes, or the Observer Plus tools. That must be the reason. Anyway, Hive is done. Spire is almost done as well. Here's soO once again, though, with a huge army. So this is Road Ravager Ling Bane. I mean, that is not uncommon at all, but then the follow-up is kind of cool, right? Disruptor's completely mispositioned, by the way. Yeah, wait, did he not know about that move out at all? I don't think, I don't think NightMare realized. That is a little bit surprising to me. He's got no vision out on the map at all. Yeah, actually, he's only got one observer, and that observer is not where it was supposed to be. So that's interesting. That entire Zerg army marched across the map. You could quite literally push your ear against the ground, and you could probably hear them tunneling around on the other side of the map, man. We need to have one of the probes with their ears against the surface. Can we pull that off, NightMare? Anyways, he does not know. He does not know about the Greater Spire move out. He hasn't scouted his opponent in forever. So, no hallucinated phoenixes. There's ways to scout. There's ways to scout, but one observer is not gonna cut it. The observer, where is it? Is it on the screen? Oh, that's right over here. Well. Okay, apparently you may live for now. Yeah, so these aggressive traits is basically what we were seeing as well from soO in game number 1. A heavy focus here on disruptors, which is, I don't think that's what you want. Another Nexus cancel, by the way. Greater Spire about to finish up. If NightMare wants to go for an attack, he needs to go now. Like, he needs to go. Your window is closing, but NightMare doesn't know because he hasn't scouted. If you give this Zerg any more time, your ground army is gonna get countered hard. I mean, he's got like nothing anymore though. I guess those trades here that soO has been making have been pretty sweet for him. Okay, well, Brute Lords are coming. The window is closed. Cool style here from soO. Very soO-esque. Yeah, I'm glad I'm casting the series, so I was kind of hoping that he was gonna show us some of the potential here with the new patch. I mean, you could do this in the previous patch too, don't get me wrong. It's just that Brute Lords aren't nearly as quick. There's another Zergling counterattack here. So every time that NightMare wants to make a move, the Zerglings come in. Now maybe, okay, maybe he's found himself an angle. Those Disruptors are doing nothing though. Like, those Disruptors are good against a Roach-based army, but this is no longer a Roach-based army. Against Zergling Brute Lord, what good do Disruptors do? Zerglings eventually, I guess, are getting cleaned up, but 37 probes were killed in the process here in total in this game. There's the Brutes. Look at the Brutes chasing. Brute Lords are chasing. That's crazy. In the meantime, Zerglings are backstabbing here at the 12 o'clock position as well. Yeah, I think NightMare needs to go back to the drawing board and consider the new patch for a little bit longer, man. Or at the very least, send around a couple hallucinated phoenixers or a couple more observers to get some sort of information, because playing the meta is fine when there's an established meta, but when there's none, you're just crossing your fingers and gambling. Well, he still has a big army. The thing is, though, Brute Lords alone will counter this army. I mean, obviously the Stalkers can get underneath, but yeah. A lot of Zerglings still available as well. They're properly upgraded, so they're not going to really take a lot of damage from those Stalkers, and the Stalkers are going to get absolutely demolished. Base in the 12 o'clock position, once again destroyed. Zerglings now nibbling away at the structures that make up the natural wall. GG is called. Just like that, it's soO who obtains the victory.